I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook my
Hello, my friend.
Hey, boss. You,
These
you
guys
look,
back.
you look really nice today, man.
I look nice today. I wear the same thing every episode.
Yeah, but there's like a glimmer to you, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Just shoot it to you.
I'm pregnant.
Oh, man. Okay.
Can you imagine? Imagine if like the next Immaculate Conception is a dude.
Yeah. From New Jersey.
Because it'd be like Christians would be like, we fucking told you so, but then it's like, oh. The trans will be like, oh, we told you so. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need a pregnant man to really unite humanity and give birth to the next Messiah.
Probably, So did you ever watch Mel Brooks' History of the World, Part 1?
I always get confused with Life of Brian, which is very different. So no.
Yeah, well, it's kind of similar where he's kind of making fun of history and stuff. But there's a part where Mel Brooks is playing Moses, and he's at the mountain, and so then God, sends him these commandments, and then he's got 3 slabs, and he goes, "People of the land, I give you 15," and then he drops one of them, and he goes, 10 commandments.
That's good.
So maybe those 15, like those other 15 commandments, maybe it's like, oh, the next, Messiah will be
right. He'll like just cobble them together.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, we haven't following this shit at all. You guys are way off. Fuck this. I'm going to hang out with the Martians.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, man.
By the way, that's not a bit. Like, we don't plan to talk about stuff like that before the episode and like act like that just comes to us. We're just naturals.
Yeah, I know. Look at this, all this amazing comedy just coming out of our mouths and shit.
Yeah. I am Mel Brooks. I'm the goy Mel Brooks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have heard that, and this actually ties in well to what we're going to talk about next, is that Jews actually calls goys, not Gentiles.
Really?
Yeah, a Jewish friend of mine told me that once. It was pretty sweet.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, he was like, Gentiles, what goys think we call them. I was like, oh, all right.
That sounds worse, though. That sounds more like a slur.
Definitely worse. Oh, it is. It is. He's a good dude, though.
That's fine.
Yeah, we all have terms. You should hear what I call you off camera. We all have terms we say about each other when we're not listening. It's when we hear it from. It's like what they talk about at like the Black people meetings. Yeah, Killer Mike was talking about that once. He's like, yeah, well, we discussed this at the Black person meeting that you weren't invited to. I was like, I want to go. Invite me to your super cool meetings. All right. So that ties into protests.
Yeah. So Columbia University is the big the epicenter of this shit, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, I would say that it has spread, which is natural. I mean, but Columbia, which is a liberal cesspool in New York City, it really is a terrible place. Actually, coincidentally, what's really funny is that a kid went to my high school who went to Columbia, also Jewish. He was kind of sounding the alarm on and I'm sure Columbia's been nuts for a while, but you know how we always say things really took a turn like early 2010s.
Yeah.
He was a grade above me, so he graduated 2008, and I remember he was very much in not the media, like he was never on Fox News or anything like that, but he was really vocal about it. It wasn't like a quiet conservative or anything like that. He was sounding the alarm about how nuts it is at Columbia, how shut it, like all the stuff that now has kind of peaked in a way. He was talking about back in like 2011, 2012, 2013, like that time, which is kind of funny to think about. Anyway, I won't say his name. I hope he's doing well.
Does his name start with T and end in Ucker Carlson?
No, did Tucker Carlson go to Columbia?
No, I don't know.
Oh, no.
I just wanted to, is someone who's so infamous they were just like, no, I can't even.
No, he's not. He's not well known at all. Actually, I don't even know what he's doing now. I shouldn't say he was a friend. He was a friend of guys who were like older than me. I played football with, and he went there. I hope I'm not doxing this guy. Good dude. So I'll stop there. So Columbia's nuts. A lot of these schools are nuts. We thought they would have learned with what happened a few months ago with Harvard, MIT, and Penn. So look, we're big, and I'll speak for Joe here. We're big free speech guys. It's a big kind of pillar of our podcast. Why we started this podcast, and that's fine. Like you can protest. Like colleges are always protesting shit, of course. Like that's totally fine. It's not that. It's the hypocrisy of them invoking the First Amendment when they would shut down any other speech, like literally anything else.
Yeah,
they would shut down if it any sort of not just like other students protesting that they disagreed with, like some minority, obviously not racial minority, but some ideological minority, but like, I don't know, well-known writers and authors and intellectuals and whatever like that coming to school, they were shut down. So like they lost that maneuver to invoke the First Amendment. Like you guys are the biggest hypocrites. I have zero sympathy for you. Because they shut down everything. And also it's not just that they're disrupting, it's like, what, don't people just go to school? Like, don't just go to class? And I remember a while ago, I think when I was in law school, there's like brown students were like requesting from their professors that they not only not get penalized for not going to class, but like get credit, like basically taking activism as a class.
Yeah.
So it's like the substance of the speech here is really nauseating in a lot of ways. I'm sure it's minority speech. A lot of it's actually pretty cringe in terms of like doing interpretive dance against colonialism or whatever. Like that's fine.
Sure.
But there are like really gross things being said that are prima facie anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Violent. And again, it's not even couching like you want to say from the river to the sea. I actually don't think that's violent. Some people will say it is. I'll hear both sides, but more things like Al-Qassam, like, and people who are listening to this, paying attention, probably know all this already, but like things like basically saying the military wing of Hamas, because remember, Hamas is actually a political group that are militant, like these are your next targets, and I'll have an arrow, like a blonde girl in a keffiyeh wearing and an arrow pointing up to a handful of counter protesters with Israeli flags. Like that's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's a sick thing to say.
Yeah.
And also a lot of guys who are getting people like chant in Arabic and chant like things about being martyrs and really overtly violent things that would not fly if it was kind of anything else.
Right.
And of course, the administrations are spineless and do nothing to stop. They go back and forth. They suspend students. They don't. They clear things out. They don't. You would think that it would just be, this is a place to learn. Like you can protest when you have the free time. And if it's in areas that aren't stopping people from going to class, and like, this is affecting class. The students now it's over Zoom. Like, what the fuck are you paying for? $80,000-$90,000 a year if your class is going to be over Zoom, not in March of 2020, in April of 2024, because of things that you can shut down. Like you don't. There's this idea that the crits have that their speech, one, is the only allowable speech, and that they can protest and utilize that speech wherever they want, which is not true. Even the ACLU will say this. So you don't have the right to block traffic.
Right.
You don't have the right to shut down other people's speech, which means like you have to,
heckler's veto.
The heckler's veto, even counter protesters. Like you don't have the right to shut down a university. That's not speech anymore. That's not how it works. And we have this idea now on the crit left that they can just do whatever they want and cry foul when they're actually faced with arrest or having their speech shut down, because it's not speech anymore. It's crossed into violent conduct, disruptive conduct. People will say, well, protests are supposed to be disruptive. I don't necessarily think that's true. Like, especially if it's a protest where you want to gain people to your side, like making people miss flights and miss work and shutting down ambulances. And there have been story after story of like an ambulance having to be diverted, a liver or like a heart transplant being diverted. People, missing flights, missing work, a guy getting out of his car screaming, I'm on parole. If I'm late for work, I will get fired.
Yeah.
Like I will get sent back. There's and just the annoying of like having to pick your kid up at school or something like that. And also just living life, and you don't get this right to do that. And it's this really sick thing that is only happening in places like New York City, San Francisco, I think
LA.
Chicago. Is it happening in LA?
I've definitely seen some of the shit happening at UCLA and USC.
Oh, UCLA. Yes, USC now is the big one. And it's really this perversion of the First Amendment that one, it makes my skin crawl, my blood boil, that they're like, of all people, they're the ones invoking it.
Right.
And two, that they just don't understand it at all. And then they're also using it really stupidly.
Yeah.
I have seen some good comments from like right wingers online that are like, guys, this is Colombia. This is not a welcoming place for us. Let them eat their own.
Yeah.
Let them look like crazy people. They're not gaining sympathy.
Right.
It's just not happening. Shutting down, making people's lives more difficult for them that they have no control over. Because remember, this isn't, and this is not the equivalent of Vietnam. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
There, in Vietnam, young, mostly poor men, even boys, were going to get their arms and limbs blown off and die in a jungle in Southeast Asia
on a war that we didn't vote on, that we didn't
vote on, that really should never ever happened. It's a lot different here. It's like they want Colombia to divest from the ETF that invests their what's it called, their endowment or whatever. You can't, your whole university will collapse because you don't get to pick and choose with an ETF or a mutual fund. It's like, that's the fund, it's in the fund or it's not. And it'll be these like tangential connections to a company that like does business in Israel when it's a globalized economy now. It's like, that's everything.
Yeah.
So it's like they don't even know really what they want. I know I'm going on here. I'll wrap this up. They don't know, they actually don't know what they want. They say divest, but they have no idea how that would actually happen.
Yeah.
They don't talk at all about any sorts of solutions. Like, how about this? How about Hamas releases every hostage, unequivocally surrenders, unconditionally surrenders. The world pressures Qatar from to release the Hamas leadership who lives lavish lifestyles in the fucking terrorist supporting oil fiefdom of Qatar. Release them, have them, be tried at international tribunals, and then at the same time, the international community pressures Israel to rebuild Gaza, make it habitable. But obviously, it's going to take generations to make it safe and make it somewhat habitable. And also, it's going to be a police state for understandable reasons.
Right.
How about that? There's none of that. There's none of this. Like, what do we actually do? It's just this hyper elite university on the Upper West Side of New York City somehow is responsible for children being blown apart in the Middle East. Like, it makes no sense, and it causes so much more harm than good. And the last thing I'll say about this is that if you actually stuck to these beliefs, if you look at protests throughout history, you look at the civil rights movement, you look at anti-Vietnam protests, look at these things, people were proudly protesting, right? They weren't covered. Their faces weren't covered. Even like WTO protests in Seattle in, was it 99, 2000? Like, people, and because of stupid fucking COVID restrictions, it's become normalized for criminals and for people like this to cover their faces. And they don't want to be, if you don't want to be recorded during your protest, then you're clearly doing something wrong. You should be proud for what you're protesting. Right. And then, the last thing I'll say is that, sorry, I built this up. The last thing I'll say is that what the crit left wants is not even close to what the other protesters throughout life that were on the right side of history did. They were okay with the consequences of their protests. It was called Letters from a Birmingham Jail for a reason. Martin Luther King spent time in jail. Nelson Mandela spent time on Robben Island because they were standing up for what they believed. They understood that they would be arrested and persecuted, and they did it anyway. What these protesters want is to have their, have their day, their day, week, whatever, protesting on their elite campus without any of the repercussions.
Right. Right.
And that's what is such a perversion of this. It's the same shit that you see across the board. There's no accountability. You want to protest, you want to disrupt people, fine. Then don't be surprised when you get arrested and go to jail and it's on your record. You have to deal with that. And if justice is on your side, then you get an attorney and you get a trial of your peers. And that's how our system is set up.
Yeah.
But you don't have this right to ruin people's lives, to threaten people, to take over blocks of a city, Chaz in Seattle, like entire blocks and entire campuses, and then not expect consequences. If you do that, like you're not a real, like you're just LARPing revolutionary. Thank you. It really fucking bothers me.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you, man. Another thing too, just like another point of raging hypocrisy from these identitarian fuckwits is that this is the same group that goes on and on about how trans people don't feel comfortable on campuses. It's like like these progressive epicenters. Trans people don't feel
they're the safest places on the planet.
Exactly for trans people, and yet like you watch some of these videos, and it's like they're actively preventing Jewish students from like going to class, and it's like you're going out of your way to make other people feel unsafe. Like that's actively unsafe. Like the thing that makes you feel unsafe for being a trans person is like, oh, like this professor used gendered language, I don't feel safe here. And here you are being like harassing Jewish students. It's like, no, they're the ones who are being you are making feel unsafe.
It's like when they say things like wiping out whatever it is, like there's a two-state solution is never going to happen, at least not in our lifetime. I can't imagine it happen. So like they want to just when you're saying things like wipe out Israel, I mean that's implying the deaths of millions. Right? Like that just is, and Israel is surrounded by hostile countries, like the country that would be fine. And this isn't like, I think people forget, if you look at Hamas's charter. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Israel is blameless on all of this. I have huge issues with Israel.
Yeah.
I also believe, and I don't even think it's a conspiracy anymore, like Netanyahu and his government, they did want Hamas in power because they can always point to them and go, they're the reason we can't compromise, because they're Islamic fundamentalists, which they are. In their charter, it says we want to kill the Jews and destroy Israel. That's why we can't do this. And that came back to bite them in the ass, because I think 1,200 people were murdered on October 7th.
Yeah.
Another thing with these protests they're happening now, but you have to remember in the hours after October 7th, after this brutal, disgusting, horrific attack, there were places like Harvard where these protests are also taking place that said, not only is this like freedom fighting and an act of anti-colonialism, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's Israel's fault. Like 1,200 people were just murdered, grandmas, babies, people who ironically, which is the most like neoliberal thing ever, were like having a dance party concert outside the walls of Gaza for peace, right? Not just happened to be there, for like unity, and they were slaughtered. And Harvard students come out and say, it's like this isn't a response to the carnage of Gaza, because a lot of that has toned down somewhat. It's probably, I would say it's more of a response to more of the aid to Israel, but that's been going on. And and if you watch some of these videos, these students, they have no idea what they're doing. Like there's literally a girl saying, and I know it's just one girl who now she's being mocked, raked over the coals, but she literally turns to her friend and is like, wait, why are we here? Like, what are we doing? I swear to God. Like, she's like, something Israel and Gaza, and what are we doing again? What's the problem? It's like, they don't even know. Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with, I don't mean to belittle the speech. Like, I'm not backtracking here, but I think a lot of them are just horny, and it's people. And I think, like I was saying last episode, where people just, I think we have these basic human instincts that run our civilization much more than people give them credit. One of them is feeling good, like broadly. People like to feel good. People like to be part of a tribe. Young people like to impress older people. That's why I think so many people are indoctrinated by lefty professors. That goes back to children wanting to impress adults. And another is that people like to fuck. Like they like to have sex, and these are college kids. They're like 17 to 22-year-olds for the most part.
Yeah.
I think, especially with the divide that's going on politically, while men are becoming more conservative at that generation, women are becoming more liberal, and men know that if they want to get laid, which is it's typically much more important to them, they have to go to shit like this.
Yeah.
And they have to at least have the picture with the flag, even if it's, a Palestine flag next to a trans flag, which makes absolutely no sense. Or a gay flag. I will say Iran, which is not Gaza, of course, but Iran, a literal theocracy.
Mhm.
Did you know that like trans surgeries are actually really not only common, but like promoted in Iran because
Really?
they're so anti-gay that they would literally, I'm not kidding. Like, so I shouldn't say it's promote, but it's like, if you're gay, just become a woman.
Right.
Because it's so anti-gay. It's kind of like a loophole, which I appreciate as an attorney. Like I always love a loophole like that. But yeah, so I don't want to say it's like popular, like it's just like trans women everywhere. But like that's better to them than a gay man, because I guess Muhammad didn't really write that down in the Hadith or whatever, in the Hadith or whoever wrote him.
Yeah.
In the
That's
Quran,
wild,
it
man.
was like,
That's hilarious.
well, yeah. But if you like men, but you become a woman, you still get the virgins when you die or whatever it is.
Right. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'll look more into that, but I know it's like nose jobs are huge there, and men becoming women, gay men becoming women.
That's fascinating, and it reminds me. And I'll keep this super brief because I think actually we should do a whole episode on it. But about how the CIA back like in the 50s funded like Rothko and like a lot of experimental like abstract art, even though it was a very conservative government, and it was to get back at Russia to show like, hey, look, see, we got more freedom over, like our artists can experiment and do weird, crazy shit. And it was sort of like to undermine, but it was almost like, okay, like we're all like ultra conservative, but let's do the crazy progressive thing to get back, or like
the CIA funded Rothko.
Yeah, well, it was one of those things where it's like, let's create it like dummy organizations to fund, museums and galleries. But yeah, so it was indirectly, but yeah, because
it was all. I mean, we say culture war is like that was like a literal culture war.
Yes,
like
our culture is more free than, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah, not only were we more free, like we have the military, we'll fuck you up.
Yeah,
we have the white picket fence, we have the wealth, and we also have art. Like we also have all that. Yeah, it's smart.
Yeah, it's a fascinating. We should do like a whole like deep dive because it's a really fascinating story.
The CIA, patron of the arts.
Exactly. Yeah, but it was I think it wasn't until like the mid '90s that like ex-agents were coming on, like, yeah, that was like a thing that we did. Like
that guy. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. This podcast is also funded by the CIA.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I mean, indirectly, through dummy corporations,
shell corporations.
Oh yeah, exactly. But
I don't have much else to say about it.
Yeah, I think but I will say it I love seeing the car. Like, did you see like the protests at Google and how they were getting arrested and shit for disrupting?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same thing. Like they're because I guess I don't know exactly what Google's connections are to Israel, but a group of activists at the company were protesting, and they were like sitting in the like, I don't know if it was like the CEO's office, but they were sitting like in high powered like executives like in their offices and shit, and like just staying there. And then they had like there's footage of like police officers coming in and be like, "Can you guys leave?" Like, "No, we're not leaving." "Okay, that's fine. Just letting you know. We're giving you a warning right now. If you don't leave right now, we're gonna have to." "No, that's fine." Yeah. And then like when they start taking them out, then they start screaming and crying and shit. It's like he was super nice. He gave you several warnings to just get up and leave.
Yeah, I don't get it because as well I'll come to I want to finish that thought, but it was like there was this, I forget what school it was. I think it was a small school somewhere in the Midwest, and the president or dean or whoever it was, she was like she was like, "Nuh-uh, none of this shit. Get out of here." She was like, "No, we're not entertaining this. You're out. You're done." And it was great. And I forget what school it was. I want to give them props. I can't remember if it was a big school. I think it was a smaller school. But talking about Google, talking about Columbia, as much as I think Columbia, Harvard, Yale, even our gem here of Princeton, like as much as terrible as I think they are ideologically, like people are still dying to get into them. students all over the world.
Yep.
So just fucking suspend them.
Yeah.
And like get rid of like Google. People in India will murder people to get jobs at Google.
Yeah.
And like Google attracts the best and the brightest. Just fire them.
Yeah.
You're not going to replace those guys.
Yeah.
Or those gals, those guys, those theys. Like you're like people will die. Like why put up with the bullshit? It's only going to hurt you in the long run because they're not going to stop now. If you give in to them again, so like have your priorities, have your values. If you start giving into shit like that, it's like they're not going to stop there. It's going to be the next thing. Oh, the next BLM thing, the next trans thing, the next whatever the next like cause celeb is for that moment. They're going to come sit in your office again. Yeah. It's only going to grow because you didn't enforce just basic shit. Like, no, you don't get to sit in the CEO's office all day. Like, you don't get to do that. You don't get to take over a campus. You don't get to take over a highway leading to O'Hare Airport. That's not how it works. That's not how like a society can function.
Right.
Like there are processes for it. You can protest. You can complain. You can have solidarity. Boycott. What was that? Yes, you can boycott. Like that's all fine. But like you don't get to just shut down everything because some like tangential connection to an issue going on halfway across the world. Yeah, you know what you should do? Go protest fucking DC. Go to K Street. Go protest the weapons manufacturers that run this whole country. Go protest the lobbyists. There you might actually get something done. Not Columbia University.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's funny because like just like the idea of like, you know, I don't know enough about what's going on in the Middle East to have like, you know, definitive who's right, who's wrong sort of thing. But like, I would at least have more respect for these protesters at Google if they're like, hey, let's do a mass exodus. Let's all just quit. Like, let's just like, you know, fuck up operations by leaving right now. And it's like, okay, like, you know, you're at least putting your money where your butt is. Or whatever the phrase is.
Where your butt is.
But where it's like, all right, cool. Like you guys just up and you know you're like, hey, if you want to stay working here, fine, go for it. But I'm leaving, and you know I'm not going to help this company anymore.
But I don't get like what. So I actually didn't know anything about Google going on.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my algorithms all focused on like universities.
Yeah.
But like, what are their demands?
Just to cut connection, whatever their connection is to Israel, or if they have an office in Israel or something. I don't know.
So yeah, they have to like shut down an entire like Israel is a huge tech economy. It's like their biggest thing. What they don't have like it's the desert. Like they don't have a lot of other shit. So it's a huge. They have like oranges and date and pomegranates and dates or whatever. I don't know if they have pomegranates, and it's tech like that and tourism and the Holy Land. Yeah. So I'm obviously I'm being facetious here, but I know that tech is a huge part of their economy. Yeah. And I'm not some big like I think Israel actually has like thumbed their nose at us. I've on this podcast I've talked about how it's bullshit that there are like speech codes for Israel, what's it called, loyalty pledges in some places. It's like fuck that. This is not Israel. This is America.
Right.
I know we have this special relationship with them, but I don't care. Like, don't tell me I have to like pledge in. I don't like pledging allegiance to my own country, and I'm a nationalist. Yeah. I love this country, but I still find the Pledge of Allegiance to be creepy as hell. Now you want me to do that for another country? Right. Get out of here! Like I'm not doing that. So I have my issues with Israel. Don't get me wrong, but with this, like it's kind of like it's one of those things where honestly, I was getting more and more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. I still have tons of issues with the encampment, or not the encampments. What are they called? The settlers, but that's the West Bank. But I have tons of issues with them geopolitically. Like, it's not that, but it's almost like you idiots. Like you do everything in my power to just push me away, like push me to a side that actually I was becoming a lot more moderate on, a lot more like understanding. I do believe that Israel in some ways acts as an apartheid state. I know people would take issue with that. Maybe I need to research more, like some more of that. I think is like, I don't know. I'm not doing a whole Israel-Palestine thing. I think every argument when you come to Israel-Palestine, I've listened to a lot of podcasts on this. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos. It all goes back in time to, well, what about this intifada? What about this war? And you go back and back and back and back. And then you hit 1947, 1948. It all goes there. And if you don't stop there, you go back to like the idea of Zionism, and you go back to like fucking Judea. Like we're back at King David.
Yeah.
And like it just is so predictable. And that's just like, so I don't know the answer to these questions. But I'm saying that I'm not a Zionist in the sense of, like basically Israel just gets to do whatever they want. Right. I think Zionist is a loaded term now. I think if Zionist is Israel has the right to exist, yeah, of course I'm a Zionist. If it's Israel gets to do whatever they want to anyone, no, I'm not a Zionist. Like so it's one of those things. Like what's a liberal, what's a progressive, what's alt-right mean? Like these are all just terms. So
yeah. No.
So anyway, I don't think so. Like, yeah, with like Google, it's what are your demands? Like, cut ties with something. Like, doesn't make, and you're willing, like, then be willing to risk your employment, your well-being, your stupid fucking expensive rent or mortgage in Santa Barbara, or what county is it? San Mateo, or obviously San Francisco. I don't know. Does anyone even live there anymore? It's Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of people shitting in front of her house.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, it just, I care more about what's going on here.
Yeah.
That's why, with the Ukraine-Russia shit, it's like, I have some opinions about it. It's more about what are we doing? How are we proliferating that? Well, how much of our money is going towards it? I feel that way similar about Israel-Palestine. It's like, well, what's going on in this country about that? And I'm not liking the way it's turning. It feels really gross. It was people ripping down in middle of October, people ripping down. I was walking on the Upper West Side. That's where our apartment is. And there would be rips through posters of children who were taken by Hamas. Jeez. What would possess you to do that?
No.
Like, it's just really sick to me. And that's why I don't give these people credit. I don't believe that it's just because of the bombing of Gaza. I think from the beginning, they not only celebrated, whether publicly or privately, celebrated this gruesome attack, and now they're using this as pretext to protest. They just want to see Israel and Jews wiped off the mat. They'd be fine without them. And I'm going to say this. I don't know if I'm going to regret saying this, but I think a lot of groups, with the Anti-Defamation League and like AIPAC, they funded a lot of this shit. You guys were cool with a lot of this progressive shit for a while. You were all for a lot of this DEI stuff until you got left out of it.
Yeah.
And so you kind of you made the bed you slept in, whatever the saying is. You sowed the seeds. Now you're reaping the I don't know, poisonous fruit or whatever you want. So I just mixed like 3 different sayings in one. But I hope now you take a step back and say like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be funding and supporting these people and calling everyone who criticizes them like alt-right or white supremacists or Nazis.
The Reckless Musecast, where metaphors run wild.
Yeah. Put your money where your butt is and eat the poisonous fruit, bitch.
Yeah, metaphors gone wild, man.
Get a life, Hamas.
Beavis and Butthead. There's I think it was Beavis was like, put that in your butt and smoke it.
Sorry, we have white privilege. What are you doing? You can't take that. No, it's cool. We have white privilege.
Oh, that was he was about to do the universe or whatever. Yeah, that was great. I love that.
That was so funny. It's like, whoa. We can just take it. Yeah. No, we have white privilege.
I like when they crashed into that college campus, that class, and then like,
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And then the black girl starts talking about whatever, and then the white guy like cuts her off and explains like,
I got this one. Yeah.
Oh
good.
Man, my one more metaphor thing. My friend, he used to do the same thing. He would just kind of forget like the second half of a metaphor.
Yeah.
So he'd just be like, dude, you know what they say? When in Rome, fuck it.
I had a friend who would do that too. Actually, it was like, we'll burn that bridge after we cross it.
Yeah.
Is that a saying or is that a mess up of one?
That's a mess up of one because there's burning bridges and then we'll cross that bridge when we get
there. We have to burn that bridge after we cross it. Then he's like, yeah, you always throw out the first batch of pancakes. And we're like, no one says that.
Oh man.
All right. That's enough fun. Let's get into the serious stuff.
Yeah.
All right. In a different tone.
Yeah.
My friend, Shed selection number 3 or 4?
I believe so. Because the
3?
first one was
Best of Night,
yep, and the second one was
Society.
Society. So yeah, this is
Let's
Ink.
just say that. We are on Ink.
I was gonna say something. I was hoping you would say something like just unbelievable. So I'd be like, dude, in your dreams. Speaking of dreams.
Speaking of ink, I got a new tattoo yesterday.
Oh, you did?
There you go. Yep. Sorry, Mom.
Where is it? Is it on your butt?
It's on my butt.
Nice. I
You
don't
always
even care what it is. I don't even care
You
what
always
it
get
is.
your 7th tattoo on your butt. That's the saying.
Yeah, Ink. So this is a good one. This is an interesting one. What did you rate it, Ben? Jimin?
Well, let me give some background. I love this movie. I really do. This was always like, this is a movie where it's like, ooh, I get to like tell people about this movie. This movie made me feel like warm and fuzzy inside. It's like, oh, you don't know. It would be like, oh, you don't know the 6th album by this obscure band from Kansas City. It's like, that was Ink to me. I was like, oh, you have to know. And then we started Shed selections. And that was probably the first movie I said, like, Ink is on this list. I love this movie. It is from 2009, I believe.
Yeah.
I actually talked to my friend, also named Joe. Shout out to other Joe, who introduced me to this movie in college. So I probably saw this for the first time like 2010, between 2010 and 2012. Yeah. I've seen it many times since, and it's definitely low budget. I think it's very, very cool. I love the look of it. I love the soundtrack. To this day is one of my favorite soundtrack. So when I'm writing on my laptop, I can't listen to lyrics. I can do like opera, but or maybe some other languages, mainly opera. But like, I can't listen to just like rock or whatever. I need acoustics. I need, so I do a lot of movie soundtracks. This from start to finish might be my favorite. Doesn't mean it's like my favorite songs, period, because it might be like a Max Richter song there, a Hans Zimmer song here, but start to finish is one of my favorites. It is should I talk about what it's about?
Yeah.
About. Yeah. So basically it's this struggle that goes on. So big picture is it's like there's a struggle that goes on in another sort of dimension, our dream dimension, between what are called storytellers and what are called incubi, or an incubus or the incubi. Of course, the storytellers give you dreams and the incubi give you nightmares. And it's this eternal struggle that goes on like literally at your bedside. Sometimes, depending on who's, if they're trying to take over or who's doing what. So the story is about a girl, like a young girl. I don't know how old do you think she is? 7?
I don't know. Yeah, like 5 or 7 or something. Yeah.
5, like probably like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Who is taken over by an.
Well, this was a drifter. I think was that like the
drifter. Yeah, so it's not taken over by incubi, and then there's people in the middle, or beings in the middle that aren't one thing or the other, right? So and his name is Ink, and he's this macabre creature, giant nose, scraggly hair, bald, scars. He looks like honestly, kind of looks like a homeless person, and like just kind of ripped cloths patched together. And he has to kind of prove himself to become an incubi, to pick a side. He's picking the side of darkness, and something goes wrong. Where instead of kind of making it a quick, the movie would be 10 minutes, which kind of maybe would be a cool short film. Something goes wrong. His key to get in is broken during a fight with the storyteller, so he has to go the long way, right, and like find keys and codes to get into where he needs to go to give his sacrifice, which is this little girl. Anything you want to add to that, like story wise?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. But yeah, there is, so like the storytellers. Like there's like a group of storytellers who are like trying to stop and trying to rescue the girl.
I just typed in Ink into Google just to like pull it up. And it's just like obviously it's gonna be cartridges and shit. Like I was such a dumbass. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, and so the storytellers are trying to rescue this girl, because in reality she's in a coma now. And she's kind of like, she's got this like estranged father, and And
who is just as big a character. I probably should have said that too. His name is John. He's it's pretty. It's low budget, so he's like a corporate guy. He's like definition corporate dude. Started out at the phones making calls, developed a drinking problem, got addicted to the lifestyle, and now is a bigwig. And a lot of the tension in this movie is there's some merger or something, right? They don't really go into detail about it. It's corporate shit.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's very much a sort of '90s dad, like a what do you call it, like a
Estranged
dad. But there's like another term for it, like a dad who's just not like Spielberg did it a lot in his movies, where it's like the dad who's like really.
It was like, the theme of every movie of my childhood.
Yeah.
It was the dads were sometimes seeing the moms work too much and neglect their family, and the kids are kind of going on adventures by themselves. It's that thing. In this, the girl lives with her grandparents. You find out that John's wife died, so like she's never really in the movie. There's flashbacks.
And so since the death of his wife, he's been very grief stricken. So he's just kind of distanced himself from his wife and whatever ties he had to any family. But he's like severely like depressed, but he's also, like you can tell like there's some good in him that's lost. But like the way the film played with like flashbacks and like kind of jumping around in time, I thought like for me it took a little while getting used to, but everything tied together really nicely. So it was I like how it did not spoon feed like what the movie's about. Like it's like you had to like really kind of watch and pay attention to stuff. So I liked that, and I thought that it was able to be touching without being overly sentimental. And it balances like a nice variety of themes. Like it was able to be kind of dark. It's not straight up horror, but there are some like really cool creature designs and things like that.
I want to talk about that. Let's talk about the style of it, because I think that's what I love the most about this movie. That and the soundtrack. So, which I already talked about. So the style I think is really cool. I love the incubi. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie. They wear almost now you would probably call it like it almost looks like when people were wearing face shields during COVID. They're kind of like face shields, but they're just square, rectangular, and they like distort the face. And the incubi are evil, but they're always smiling, which is super creepy. And they're wearing I think they all wear glasses, and they wear what would you call, like, not spandex, but something you'd see in like a biohazard type lab, like that kind of material that makes that stretchy, crinkly noise when you walk. It's really creepy. And I just think they look really, really cool. It's very I don't know. They're creepy. They're evil. They're just kind of omnipresent. They just kind of show up. I love I want to talk about the fight scenes too. So let me first continue with the style. The storytellers are very they look like
Good Charlotte.
They look like almost, I would say, a mix of Good Charlotte and Mumford and Sons. Like it's very right on the cusp going into the what's the term I'm looking for? Hipster era of like 2012. Like they were a little ahead of the curve.
Clap stomp hipster rock.
Yeah, this movie does take place in Denver, so they are a little bit. That's kind of like the epicenter of this style, or not. I don't know. But
clap stomp hey, I think is the.
It's very. They look like a mix of very hipstery. They have like armbands and vests and white people with dreadlocks and that kind of shit. But they have more of a girls with nose piercings and short hair and shit like that. They're very cool. They're very cool. Like they look
2000
very I would say like they're very, I mean, of the moment, and they're very late 2000s, early 2010s, which is when this movie was shot, or 2009. So what I like about them is they have a signal that you like pop it, and then they just kind of pop out of the sky and come like running to fight. It's like the beacons are lit type thing. They're and their fight, they basically just fight with clubs or fists. I think one fights with like brass knuckles, but it's pretty. I thought the best fight scene was actually the first one in the bedroom
Yeah.
between Ink and what's her name? Leave. No, not Leave. Yeah, Leave.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
No. Leave was the other. Yeah, no, Leave was the storyteller. Alel. That was it. Jennifer Bader. By the way, this movie, one actor out of 15 or so, 10, 15, has a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, they're all very unknown.
Very unknown. The only one is M.A. Ikwakor, who was, I mean, to put it bluntly, he was the black guy who was one of the storytellers who was very cool. He fought the brass knuckles, but he's the only one here with an actual Wikipedia page. So it's not like anyone from here made it real big. It's unfortunate. I think it's good. Some of the acting is it's indie. Not the best. It's indie. Sure, it's indie, but I like that. I think the main characters are all good. I have a feeling did you not like the blind guy? The guy with the X's on his eyes.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
You liked him? Okay.
Yeah,
he was the one who so that's Jacob. His shtick is that he's not a storyteller. He's what's called a pathfinder. I don't know exactly in the lore what that does, but they need him. He can find shit.
Yeah.
And he does it by tapping into quote unquote the beat of the world.
Yeah.
Which can cause physical changes. So he plays a big part in this. There's actually a big page for Ink. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
That there's all this here. I haven't written the review yet. But I'm shocked they don't have one already. I was probably waiting to rewatch it when I started writing movie reviews past 5 years, but I haven't. So his shtick is, he has X's over his eyes, literally. He's blind. But he's the pathfinder. His performance, why I don't dislike it, is that I think it comes around at the end.
Yeah.
I loved his final scene. He's the comic relief, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of weird, not some great lines.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the end where he's, I don't know. Have we decided we're going to spoil Shed Selection movies or not? Because the whole point is that we don't think a lot of people have seen them.
Right.
We
No, that's
want
true.
people to see them.
Yeah. Well, we did spoil I know.
Well, we had to spoil Society.
That was been out for a long time. So.
All right. Well, spoiler alerts. You should still go watch this movie. I'm not necessarily going to go on my way to spoil things, but yeah, I don't know how else to talk about it really without doing it. So I just loved his final scene where he actually plays he literally lights the final beacon that saves the day, and he's lying on the ground, and this whole shtick is he's always counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and he's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, breathe, 4, 1, 2, don't die, and I love that final scene.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I think it's stylistically, it's just really, it's creepy. It's again, the tech isn't always the best. Special effects aren't the best, but I think it does really well for what it has.
Yeah.
It is 2009. It's not like 2019. A lot of strides were made in that point, but it's not a perfect movie. I think I'm going to give it the high 80s to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 88, 89. Again, I take everything into account. It is definitely a feel good movie though.
Yeah.
It is. I love the ending. Ink's final scene.
Which we probably shouldn't spoil that.
Let's not spoil that.
Yeah. Because that was cool. That was a nice.
Did you? So
reveal.
My question for you, because I've seen this many times, did you realize that is what happens?
No, I didn't see it coming. I thought it did a nice job. Where it tied everything together, where it was both surprising, but it was also oh, this makes sense. It did not seem contrived in any way for me.
Yeah, I loved it. I don't mean to be plot hole guy.
Right?
Why wouldn't Leave just tell him earlier?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you catch that?
No, I did not actually.
because it wasn't explained that it's like, and it's really hard to talk around this without spoiling it. I'm gonna try not to. It's like it should have been explained, like he has to come to that realization himself.
Right. It's one of those like a single scene, some kind of mythology or explanation of the lore could have probably filled that plot.
Right. Like, but so why couldn't she have just told him?
Yeah.
Of course, the answer is, well, then it's not a movie. But my response, well, that's bad writing. Like that seems like a pretty big plot hole to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I realized that even the last time I watched it, but this time I was like, oh shit. Like, I wish, I don't know. I kind of wanted like, so now I'm kind of doing some criticisms.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see some more Incubot, like more of what they actually do and why they exist.
Yeah.
Like the kind of head guy at the end. What was his shtick?
Right.
He doesn't even have a line, right? He doesn't
Yeah.
even speak. I don't know. He might say something. I don't know. But he just kind of came and went.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was paced well.
Mhm.
I could see someone getting lost. I like the multi-layering, like I like the layering of it. Yeah, I mean, I love this movie. I think very few people know about it. Let's see how many views.
One thing always cracks me up in like either fantasy or even in superhero movies where it's like these are otherworldly beings, but when they fight, they still just punch each other.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, like the fight scenes were cool, but it was sort of like you guys are like interdimensional dream beings, and you can't.
Right. So this is like such a Shed Selections movie because this has literally 6 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for the critics. It does have a 100, but it's 5,000 for the audience, and has an 81, so still very good.
Yeah.
I want to read these, but Rotten Tomatoes changed their whole thing, by the way. I don't like it. Oh, audience reviews. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, even 5,000 isn't very much, but it's more than I thought. The movie has been around for a good amount of time now, but yeah, I don't think a lot of people have seen this movie. No one I know ever, when I bring this movie up, has ever said, "Oh yeah, I love Ink. That's great."
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think Jamin. Oh, so it's directed by Jamin Winans. He's done 3 feature films. 11:59 is one, like 11:59, and The Frame. Have you seen any of those?
I haven't seen The Frame, but I heard it's good.
Oh, you have heard about it. Okay.
Well, when I was looking into this, the director,
okay.
so not I didn't hear about it from anyone else. But I was looking at the director and I was like, yeah, this one looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm going to add this too. Oh, and also something did come out of this that was mainstream. Apparently, they used the City Surf, which is one of the songs that's recurring in it, in the movie The Gray. Do you remember The Gray with Liam Neeson? Like the wolf movie?
Yeah, he's out in the wilderness or something. Yeah.
Yeah, they use that in at least I believe they do. In that movie, so that's pretty cool.
That's interesting. It's pretty rare when something like that happens. Like in Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man movie, after Peter Parker gets bitten by the radioactive spider, and his body's transforming, and there's like this crazy montage of like spiders and stuff. There's one shot that is a close-up of a tarantula like going across the screen, and that shot was taken from an obscure Italian zombie movie called The Beyond. And it's just like, yeah, that almost nobody, the same thing, almost nobody knows about, but Sam Raimi, I guess, knew about it. I was like, let's use that one shot in the Spider-Man movie, like in a big budget thing.
Yeah. It was used in The Gray. Yeah, Jamin Winans, the City Surf, The Gray. So that's cool. Probably got some money. Got a nice payday there. Yeah, but he hasn't made anything since 2014.
What's going on, jamming?
I don't know.
Why aren't you jamming?
Well, wait, has he? He made a documentary in 2020 called Childhood 2.0. With Kiowa Winans. I don't know if that's a wife or sibling. All right. Anything else you want to talk about with Ink?
Yeah, I didn't care much for the look of the film. It reminded me of like a CW TV show. It just had like this flat, sort of washed out look. There were times when it worked, but it was also like, and you know, to give him credit, it's like that was very much in style at the time. Like
Mhm.
so many movies and TV shows had that look. Um,
It does look like you're right with that, like a cable TV kind of like
you know,
what were those what were those shows called?
I know there's like Smallville, and there's like
yeah, there's one that's something shit.
or like UPN or some shit.
Yeah, I noticed that too on this watch. I'm like, this movie doesn't look great in that sense.
Yeah,
It just the regular kind of filter or whatever doesn't look great.
yeah, it's almost black and white. Like it's just very like washed out, very
Mm,
so you know that definitely kind of dates the film a bit. But
yeah.
yeah, overall I thought you know, whenever my and for me, like I as I get more into film, I get even more particular when it comes to cinematography.
Mm.
So I think it probably irks me more than than most people, but it made up for it in terms of just originality and imagination.
Like it was very cool. Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying it kind of reminded me a little bit of that movie Dark City. You ever see that one?
Dark City.
It came out in the mid-90s. It's kind of like a pre-Matrix movie. You would
No.
probably love it. Maybe
Okay.
so the movie it's if I were to explain like the plot, you'll be like, oh, that's the Matrix. So it's about these aliens who are manipulating a group of
Oh, I recognize this like picture.
yeah. It's about
Yeah,
aliens who are manipulating a group of humans who are all sort of like unconscious and like living in this weird alternate reality. And there's one dude who breaks through and he's trying to foil the plan. But it's super
Yeah.
cool because it's like it's both film noir and like hyper like sci-fi. So but like the basic plot is like these aliens, like these very like sort of gray aliens. They're very humanoid, but they're like just, like all have like this pale skin. And every night, like you know, there's people living in the city. It's almost like Gotham City, like it's very film noir. And like they knock everybody out. Everybody goes to sleep at the exact same time. They all go unconscious, and then they'll move people around. I think it's been a while since I watched it, but it's like they'll take you know a family that's living in a nice like penthouse and then move them into like a blue collar like shitty little apartment and then switch that family and then when they all wake up now they're living these completely new lives.
Just
But
to fuck with them.
there was some bigger purpose. I don't know if like they were watching human nature or like they were trying to see how it was part of, but it was part of like some bigger like more malignant plan. But then there's like one guy who is like awake to that, and so he sees like the city moving around and like people being switched around. It's a really cool movie. Because yeah, it's
I'll definitely have that.
but the idea of like these beings influencing us, and there's kind of like this war going on while we don't see it. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Ink.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and I think it's really like at its core, what I love so much about Ink was this concept of this like extra dimensional war that's going on for our dreams, and they do show like it's kind of corny, like kind of cheesy, but like what people are dreaming. So it'll be like a kid and he's like a rock star and hitting the home run, and you know, it'll be a girl, it'll be a woman, just like money's falling from the sky and shit like that. And then it shows like nightmares where it's, you know, a guy like an incubus standing over a guy who's like writhing in bed, and it's like his wife calling him like not a piece of shit, 'cause I don't think I really curse in this movie, like a loser, like a draw, like you know, you can't hold down a job, like you're pathetic. And meanwhile she's like sleeping right next to him, like curled up next to him, but it's just, you know, you have no control over your dreams. The incubi do, but I really just love that concept, and I think Ink is a very interesting character because you see that moment where Leave is getting her haircut, remember, from that other drifter, who's kind of like the very melodramatic pock makeup, whatever, pancake makeup woman, and he's like, all right, that's enough. Like you see him start to like have humanity, and I like his transition, and he's still like struggling with, you know, should he go through with this? And I just think I think he's so grotesque, and it's like it's pretty shocking. Like when you see the first time you see him without his hood up,
Yeah.
Because they kind of hint at it. They can show his nose, and he does scream at her pretty early on. But really, when they reveal what he looks like, he's and I think that's hard to do on a low budget.
Yeah.
And that it's not over the top, but it's just really kind of gross, and you sympathize with him.
Yeah. So yeah, go check it out.
Yeah. So Shed Selections, we
The whole thing's up on YouTube.
the whole movie.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. So yeah, you can watch it on YouTube. I watched it. Oh yeah, we should do that too. How we watch. So I watched this on Zumo. Is it Zumo? I don't know. XUMO.
No.
So
I watched it on a different one that was still free and still what do you call it, like legal?
yeah, definitely.
It was Plex.
Oh, okay. It was on Plex. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Shed Selections, we take movies that either we love or one of us loves, and we share it with everyone and talk about it. And I think Ink was a great number 3.
Yeah.
Real quick, we have a Patreon. You can check it out. We have different tiers of merch. Every tier comes with merch, as little as $3. Also like and subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't already. The Spotify page, please review us. All that stuff really helps. It's all
only if you're gonna say something nice though.
Yeah,
if you say something mean,
yeah, we're gonna be mean. Don't be mean.
Mm.
We're mean. We're the ones who are mean.
Yeah.
Mean.
Give us your money so we can be mean to strangers online.
Yeah. No, we don't do that. Not
No.
anyone who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're the internet stepbrothers. So
Exactly.
that's yeah, and share with your friends. Like that was really cool. Where I forget who, just someone on Twitter today was like, "Hey, listen to this during my walk today. Loved it. Thanks, guys." I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
sweet."
Yeah.
And that's it. Anything else on Ink? That's all. Y'all
That's it.
inked out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. Well, you can stay reckless out there, Joe Garza.
You too, Benjamin, on the East Coast.
Let's fight the crits.
Fight them.